I'm Dr. Lauren Sparks. I'm a doctorally trained nurse practitioner and also a therapist. Most importantly, I've walked through the fire of erythromelalgia and chronic inflammatory response syndrome. I want you to know I have hope for your healing, lots of it. Today, I want to talk about how you can potentially rule in or out CIRS as a root cause of your suffering. So when we have EM, we've probably already spent a lot of time, money, energy, resources invested into trying to find ways forward. And so I certainly don't want you to feel as if I'm sending you down a rabbit hole. I think the most cost-effective way to tease out whether or not CIRS could be a root cause of your erythromelalgia is to take something called the Visual Contrast Sensitivity Test. It's also nicknamed the VCS test. And this test will link below. It's available on Dr. Shoemaker's website, Surviving Mold. This VCS test is very interesting. It was developed by a neurotoxicologist, and it can pick up on biotoxins affecting the optic nerve. It affects our ability to see shades of gray normally, and it's not in a way that we would pick up as we look with our eyes out into life, but instead with the use of our computer or our laptop. And this test will see lines and they'll be pointing in certain directions, and it tests our ability to see these subtle shades of gray. If you fail this test, there is a concern that a biotoxin is affecting your ability to see shades of gray, and CIRS workup would be warranted. I love this test because it's only around $15 to take it. We'll link the website where you can take this test below. We aren't affiliated with Dr. Shoemaker. I just love that this is such a cost-effective way to sort of rule in or out if it would be helpful to have further workup for CIRS. I would caution you to avoid the free VCS websites. Unfortunately, in my practice, I don't see those correlate with the results on Dr. Shoemaker's website, Surviving Mold. So I don't want you to get a false result, either a false positive or false negative, that could really affect your trajectory. I would just invest the $15 in a reputable, evidence-based test on Dr. Shoemaker's website. So there's a couple pieces of that test. When you do Dr. Shoemaker's VCS test, it will also ask you about a set of symptoms. These symptoms are called symptom clusters that are associated with CIRS. And at the bottom of the page, you'll see that the first page of your report will have a VCS test, and it will tell you if you passed or if you failed. A fail would be indicative of a possibility for chronic inflammatory response syndrome. The second page of the test will tell you whether or not you have a positive symptom cluster. And again, this would indicate you are at risk for having chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and further workup is warranted. If you have both a failed VCS test and a positive symptom cluster, you have a 98.5% chance that your blood work will confirm a diagnosis of CIRS. So it's a simple $15 investment to see if you have a very large chance of having a diagnosis of CIRS, which could be a root cause driving your disease process. I want to preface this, though, with a few things. There are some people that have better visual acuity than the average bear. They often tend to be young, they may be female, they may be artistic, and they can often pass this VCS test even if they meet criteria for chronic inflammatory response syndrome when blood work is done. So if you fall in this category and you're getting a pass of the VCS test, it still may be worth your while to pursue a workup for chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And the other piece that I would like to mention is that just because you don't have a positive symptom cluster yet doesn't mean that I would totally rule out this disease process for you. Certainly, there was a point in time when I didn't have many other additional symptoms. I just had Raynaud's and migraine, so I wouldn't have met criteria for that positive symptom cluster. I think my blood work may have met criteria for CIRS, and I do see that in my practice. I see patients early in their EM journey whose primary complaint is EM. They may have some other complaint like headaches or occasional gastrointestinal issues or some brain fog, but it's nothing too troubling. Their main complaint is EM. And so they don't have a positive symptom cluster yet, but especially if they fail a VCS test, that would be concerning. I would pursue further workup because we like to catch the snowball at the top of the hill before you start plummeting and obtaining other symptoms as you're progressing along in your disease process. So this is just a quick down and dirty on easy way to tease out whether or not you may be appropriate for further workup for chronic inflammatory response syndrome if you currently have an erythromelalgia diagnosis. I've made other videos about how treatment of my chronic inflammatory response syndrome put my erythromelalgia completely into remission. I'm somebody who once got around on a scooter or wheelchair. I couldn't cover my feet when I slept. I now enjoy snuggling up under the covers. I take warm, hot bath or shower every day. I go into hot tubs for hours at a time. I knew I was healed when I could tolerate a sauna at 180 degrees without fear of a flare. I want you to know that I have hope for your healing. If you're benefiting from this channel, please do like and subscribe. Feel free to add your own tips and tricks and stories about navigating either EM or CIRS in the comments. This is a place where I want us to be able to share all of our hard-won wisdom together. If you have a specific question for me, please feel free to post it in the comments so I can create a video that's catered to you. And until next time, take good care and hold on to hope.